Hey guys, welcome in. It is Brad with College SportsCast. John and I are here tonight, and it is week 19. We're in the new year 2025, and it's week 19 of College SportsCast season 3. We got basketball, and some more basketball tonight. All right, guys, welcome in. It is Brad with College Sportscast. We are here to do our game day pick'ems for you. It is Friday night. So we've gotten through the holidays, John. We've had a couple of weird weeks. We've gotten through the holidays, gotten through Christmas. Now we've gotten through the New Year's. Are you ready to kind of get back in the swing of things?
Yeah. It's an exciting time. Conference season is one of my favorite times of the year. You and especially this year, with the SEC as good as it is, and speaking of which, I put out an article tonight about the schedule this weekend. We write for Stadium Rant. I put one out about the schedule that was happening this weekend. Go and take a look at it. There's some really good games. There's some very underrated games. Then there's some real big games, like the one we're fixing to just jump right into here in a minute.
There is. So I want to start off thanking our fans. Our Facebook is growing tremendously. We're both writing for Stadium Rant. I am covering Kentucky basketball, women's mostly, but went to a men's game recently. Our Facebook is really growing. If you're on Facebook with us, we appreciate you. You can help support us by sending stars, or you can subscribe to our page. It's only 99 cents a month, and we appreciate that. It does help us to earn a little bit of money to continue to make content.
I do want to say something real quick. I do want to say something real quick before we get into it. They're expecting a major ice and snowstorm this weekend, and I just wanted to say to everybody to be safe out there. There's a lot going on with the models. They don't know really what's going to happen. Me and Brad talked about a little bit of it today. But if you're traveling this weekend, please be extra cautious, and if you have to, cancel those plans, or if you have to, just delay them for a little while, because we don't want nobody out on ice or snow, because that can be a devastating situation, because we've seen what happened in 2009 with the ice storm and whatnot. So just be prepared and know where you're going and the delays, and hopefully that you'll be able to make it in time and not try to rush it.
All right. And don't buy up all the darn bread.
No, that's another thing. That's another thing.
All right.
I knew you had to get in
for the rest of it.
I knew you had to get in there, Brad. I knew you had to get that in there. So
save stuff for the rest of us. Golly, y'all.
Oh goodness.
All right. So happy New Year. It's 2025. For me, I cannot believe that we are a quarter of a century into this new century. It's amazing to me. In the 21st century, we are a quarter of the way there, which is just unbelievable to me. But it is 2025. I hope everybody had a good new year. There's been some stuff going on, John. We had the postponement down in New Orleans, the Trump Tower in Vegas. I mean, there's been some stuff going on already in 2025 that is just, it kind of blows your mind. And it did affect the sports world because it did delay the Sugar Bowl for a day. I wrote about that on Stadium Rant. pretty good article, I feel like. Have been told by a few people. Check it out on Stadium Rant as well about the happenings on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day morning, I guess I should say, in New Orleans. But with that said, we are going to turn the page to what we do here, College SportsCast, and we're going to do our game day pick'ems. Like I said, guys, this is week 19 already, which is insane to think about, to be honest. But that's what we're at is week 19. And John, you got to wake up early to catch the game tomorrow. I mean, you got to get up and get your coffee in. I mean, you know, it's absolute nuts to me that one of the best games of the day is at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Yeah. So that means I'm in Central time. This game starts at 10 o'clock in the morning, my time. Yeah. All right. If you're in Mountain time, that's 9 o'clock. And if you happen to be a Kentucky fan in the Pacific time zone, this game, or a Florida fan, this game is at 8 o'clock in the morning. 8 o'clock in the morning, Pacific time.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's early. It is what it is. It's not ideal, but you got to get up. You got to get ready for the game. Pope mentioned early in the week, or maybe it was today, that he was preparing them early for practice to kind of get them ready for the game on Saturday. You know, offense, that's the key for this game, I guess. That will be the theme for Kentucky. Kentucky ranks third in the country in scoring offense. Florida is not too far behind in that regard when it comes to offense. They got a really good guard in Walter Clayton Jr. that can really dynamite. Well, he is dynamite. Rather, I mean, he can drive, he can shoot, he can do a lot of good things. He's a really good defender. I think, to me, if Kentucky is going to win this game, they have to hit some shots. That's just all there is to it. Because if they don't hit shots, if they get out their slow start that they did against Brown and certain teams that they played as of recent, Florida's liable to they could put this game out of reach. Like this could
John,
be a 15. This could be a.
Let me ask you about this real quick. So there's only 4 undefeated teams left in the country. Florida's one of them. They're 13-0 coming into this game. You know, they're still undefeated. They have not played a piece of cake schedule. They have played some pretty decent teams, come out on top. You know, they're coming into Rupp, the 6th ranked team in the country, and Kentucky's 10th.
I'll say this when it comes to this. I think this will be their toughest test yet. You know, going into SEC play every night, like I said, it's going to be a war. It's going to be a battle, whether you're the away team, whether you're the home team. Each night is going to be beat up central because every team's going to beat each other up, basically what it boils down to. I wouldn't be shocked if the champion of the SEC has 5 or 6 losses. And that's being just honest, because, I mean, this league, it might be the best league in the country. By far, right next to.
I don't think there's any might. I think it might be the best league in the country ever.
Yeah,
like the best conference ever in college basketball.
Well, and then you got the Big 12, and then from there it's just a crapshoot. But I'm going to go out on a limb here, Brad. You know, I've been known to do that sometimes.
Supposed to get breezy is all I'm going to say. Be careful.
I've been
supposed to get breezy.
I know I've been known to do this on the show every once in a blue moon.
Storm's coming.
I think Kentucky starts this 2025 campaign with a statement win. I think they win and beat the Gators tomorrow. I do.
John, all right.
Like I said, it's not going to be easy. The Gators are a really good team. They're talented.
I'm going to be honest with you. The Gators, Clayton Jr. always plays good against us, always shoots well against us. He can shoot from anywhere on the floor. There's a few things about this team that kind of worry me. I was at the Brown game. This Brown team is little. I mean, their back line was like 6'6" and 6'7". Okay. And they out-rebounded Kentucky for the entire game. In the first half, John, they out-rebounded Kentucky 21-10.
That's another issue in itself. Because the Gators because the Gators are probably one of the best rebounding teams in the country when it comes to on the boards, the glass.
Yes.
But that don't concern me as much as the shooting. If Kentucky can't hit shots and they're cold and the Gators are hitting,
well, then it's pretty much lights out. If the Gators are hitting and Kentucky's cold, I mean,
what I'm saying in
terms of lights out.
What I'm saying in terms of cold is the slow starts, the barely out and feeling like there's no energy, no effort. It just feels like it's blah. You know what I mean? Like there's like I'll give you an example. Ohio State game. You come out and you feel like you're dead-headed. You can't do that against Florida. Just simply cannot.
All I'm talking about here, though, I'm not talking about just this Florida game. The SEC is going to be an absolute beast, and the rebounding on this team is concerning. Like, not just this Florida game, not just the Brown game. If you go back and look, the rebounding on this team is not great. And the physicality, and there are teams like Florida and Mississippi State, and there are teams that Auburn that crash the glass. Tennessee, that is going to come after you on the glass. And if you can get out rebounded by Brown, I know we won the game by 20-some points. I get it. But, man, I want to pick Kentucky here. I mean, it's at Rupp. I think Kentucky should win this game.
There's going to be a lot of excitement. And I say that because, it's Pope's first SEC game at home. It's going to be bouncy. The crowd's going to be into it. I mean, Gators are going to have to play.
I'll tell you another thing. Butler has to come alive. The last couple of games, he's really been nowhere to be found, to be honest. Not really.
You know who's actually playing really well he kind of slacked off, then he kind of picked it up, is Andrew Carr. Andrew Carr is playing a lot better.
Carr played great the other night.
Yeah, he's picked it up. He's picked it up a lot. So, I'm like you, Brad. I don't want to pick Kentucky right now, just for the mere fact that I don't trust their offense right now. Their offense has not looked great. Even in the Duke and Gonzaga games, they haven't looked that great. They just made plays when the other team didn't. They haven't really shot that well since early November?
Yeah, it's been a while, to be honest.
It's been early, so probably the first couple of games. So, but I'm going to pick them.
I'm picking Kentucky here because everybody knows that we're Kentucky fans, and I'm covering Kentucky, and I'm picking Kentucky, but I'm concerned about this game. I'm not going to sit here and act like that I'm not. I am concerned about this game. You got to hold – if you're going to beat anything in the SEC, you got to hold firm at home because the road games are going to be nightmares.
It's going to be a gauntlet.
So, yeah. So, a 2-point win, a 3-point win, I don't care what it is, you got to come out on top here.
Just get it. Yeah.
Just win, baby. Sorry, that's an Al Davis reference. All right, John, we're going to move on to the next one. This is a big game in the SEC, and this is a noon game, Eastern time.
Yep.
So right off the bat, you got Florida and Kentucky. An hour later, you got Arkansas.
It's at 1.
What's that?
It's at 1 o'clock. It's on ESPN.
Oh, is it at 1 Eastern? Yeah. Okay. All right. But right off the bat, you got two pretty early games, Arkansas and Tennessee.
And Tennessee is still one of the undefeated teams, like Florida.
They are.
They haven't lost a game. So this is going to be interesting. You got John Calipari, first season at Arkansas, was with Kentucky a year ago. He's going into a tough environment in Knoxville. Arkansas is playing really, really well right now. They've won their last 6 games. Tennessee has kept their number 1 ranking. I think a win over Arkansas would.
I think Wagner's found a 3-point shot.
Yeah. I think this win would go a long way. And I think widening that gap with them and Auburn in the polls, if they win this game. I think Arkansas keeps this close. But I'm going to tell you, Brad, something I seen last year and the year before with Kentucky. Freshmen get tied up late in games, pressure. It's going to be interesting to see how Boogie Flan, Richmond, some of those guys, how they react to the bright lights in Knoxville, because this is going to be a tough game for them. Freshmen
it's a tough environment as well.
And I say that because Tennessee's got some dudes. They got, Chaz Lanier. They got Zakai Ziegler, Milicic. This is a good team. This ain't no slouch team that Arkansas is playing. This is a team that could possibly win
the country. So
they could possibly win the title, win the SEC. So I'm going to go Tennessee in this one, Brad, just for the mere fact that it's a total mismatch when it comes to freshmen and experience. And I'm going to take experience in this game. I think Tennessee has a little bit more experience than Arkansas does. John L. Davis, I'll say this on him. He has to play big in this game. If he's not hitting shots, I don't think Arkansas really has a chance.
And because Adu is there as well. So, he
is there. He's a former Vol. He played for them last year. So, Arkansas, I think Arkansas will keep this game pretty close throughout. But I just think, being the home team and playing in Knoxville is just a tough environment to overcome.
I mean, I'm going to mirror that, pretty much everything you said. I mean, Arkansas is playing a lot better. I was kind of shocked to see that Wagner seems to have found an outside shot. Just to be honest with you, I mean, even this year, early, the first 2, 3, 4 games, he was shooting terrible.
Yeah.
The first 4 games or so, 5 maybe. But the last 5, 6, 7 games, he's really shooting well. I think he's close to like 40% from the 3-point line on the year, which, like I said, he's found a shot from the outside. Boogie Flan is playing really well. One of my favorites from Kentucky that transferred down there is Thiero. He's had a good season down there for them. And like you said, they got John L. Davis, super senior, FAU, Final Fours. I mean, he made the Final Four. I mean, he has the experience. Jonas Adu from the Vols.
I will say this too. Billy Richmond and Carter Knox, they've been playing really well as of the last couple of games. So it'll be interesting to see how the freshmen react to a tough environment.
Yeah, and that's where I'm going to go with this. Is I think it's just going to be a really tough environment. It's a tough place to play, and I think I'm going to give it to Tennessee and Knoxville to win this game. All right, the next one we're going to get to is Baylor at Iowa State. What do you think? Baylor seems to be riding the ship a little bit. They kind of struggled early. In November, they were struggling a little bit. I think they have maybe found a little bit. They're back in the top 25 this week in the AP poll at the bottom, but they're back in the top 25. Iowa State plays some hella defense.
They do, and you got to remember, Iowa State's only loss was to Auburn on a neutral floor.
Yep.
The Cyclones they're one of the top tier teams in the sport. They got a really great home court advantage at Hilton. That I've always said that's one of the most underrated places to play in college basketball. Baylor is 0-2 in road games, in true road games this year. They've been kind of shaky on the defensive end against good competition. They lost the game against Tennessee. They had some kind of bumps in the road early in the year. That could be an issue against a team like Iowa State that is top 10 national in points, and they're really great defensively. Now, I will say
Baylor was a top 10 team preseason.
Now, I will say
they had some high expectations for this team. Edgecombe is a hell of a player, freshman.
I will say Baylor is a really good three-point shooting team, but trying to keep up in that environment at Hilton is going to be tough to overcome, I think. And that's why I got the Cyclones. Got the Iowa Hawkeyes on my mind. They won a bowl game the other night. That's probably why. But Iowa State, that's one of the toughest places to play that I've been.
The defense that this team plays is lights out. I mean, honestly, they're one of the best defensive teams in the country. It's not even debatable. Baylor, it was a top 10 team coming into the season. I mean, honestly, they put together a team that they had hopes, to make a Final Four. In Waco this year, they started out pretty slow. Edgecombe, the talented freshman they brought in, has shown flashes, had some really good games. And then, they got players back on this team as well. And they brought some others in. I mean, they got the Duke transfer and they got, so I mean, this is a talented team. I think playing the Cyclones on their home floor is going to be a little bit much here in this game.
I've said that too.
Yeah, I think Iowa State's gonna win this at home. That would be my prediction here. The next one we're going to talk about is BYU goes to Houston. BYU's 10-2. They hired a great coach after Pope left. Pope left a pretty good team down there. They kept most of the pieces together. They only had one or two transfers. And that's pretty strong when a coach leaves and you only have a couple of transfers. In this day and time, most of the time you have mass exodus when your coach leaves. And they kept that team together. He's added some pieces, playing really well. But this is at Houston, John. Tough place to play.
Yeah, very tough. And, both teams are off to really strong starts. I think this is going to be a good test for BYU. They're playing for a first-year coach and Coach Young. And they don't have a lot of returning production that you're used to seeing in Provo. A lot of guys transferred out. A lot of guys went other places. Some was seniors. They got whipped at Providence back on December 3rd. Now they have to go and take on a team of Houston that is 8th in the country. When it comes to minutes, players that have played the most amount of minutes, experience-wise.
And they're tough defensively as well.
And I'll say this.
Always are.
I don't think this victory is going to be large. I think Houston picks up the win. I think they suffocate this BYU defense, this offense. This is a tough environment as well when it comes to playing college basketball. Houston's a really tough environment. I think BYU takes care of business, or Houston takes care of business here.
Yeah, Kelvin Sampson's built something pretty special down there at Houston. It's built on defense and guard play. Mm-hmm. Just to be honest with you, they got LJ Cryer still down there. He's got a really great defensive team here again. And it's a tough place to play. I'm going to give this one to Houston at home as well.
I forgot to charge my iPad. I forgot to charge my laptop. Let me go get the charger.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to give this one to Houston as well, but got to give a shout out to to BYU for pretty much keeping a whole lot of that team together. Kevin Young is the coach they hired. He was a big time assistant that had done a really good job in the NBA, and his last stop was with the Phoenix Suns, and Devin Booker gave him a lot of credit on developing him and his game and being a player's coach, and he has the ties to the NBA. And BYU landed the number one recruit in the country, 2025 coming in. And Kevin Young is doing some stuff that we haven't seen on the basketball side for BYU. So look for them to continue to build. But tomorrow, I think I'm going to pick Houston.
Yeah, I'm in that same.
Right.
But
yeah, I was just talking about some of the job that Kevin Young's doing there at BYU. So, but our next game we're going to talk about is UCLA is at Nebraska. This is a surprise game, I think, for a lot of people. I think this is like 2 10-2, 11-2 teams, something like that. Mm-hmm. And Nebraska's playing well. This is at home for them. And UCLA is coming off a pretty strong season so far.
Yeah, they're playing good. I mean, they got some dudes. They got Eric Daly Jr. He's averaging 11 points a game. They got Sebastian Mack that is really, really good. This is a good team. Well, and they got Sky Clark, the former Kentucky prospect that committed to Kentucky and went to Illinois. He's playing for them now. This is a good UCLA team. Now Nebraska's off to a hot start too. UCLA is very stingy on the defensive end of the floor, and I think this is going to probably be the reason why they win this game. They're just really good defensively. Mick Cronin has that. He's had that niche ever since he was at Cincinnati. He's always had a good defensive team when it comes to teams that he's coached. And I think that's the reason why they beat this Nebraska team. And the 2 losses that Nebraska did have were the 2 high-ranked teams, and that was St. Mary's and Michigan State. I do think UCLA's defense wins this game for them.
So, John, there's a few of these games, and I might mention them as I go through, but this is one of those new era, um, you know, teams switching conferences. This is a conference game in the Big Ten, and it's UCLA at Nebraska. I mean,
oh man,
I'm going to have to get used to some of this because
I will
say this. Let me say this, though. I'm still not 100% used to say. I still, in my brain, kind of think of Nebraska in the Big 8, the Big 12, Big 8. Like,
I will say
I know they're not there, and it's been like 10 or 12 years. But this is a weird Big Ten game.
I'll say this. Remember this name for Nebraska, Bryce Williams. He's averaging over 19 points a game. He can absolutely play. He's a stud. If Nebraska seems to win this game, I think he's going to be probably the reason why they win this game. But with that said, I still think UCLA takes care of business on the road.
Yeah, I mean, Mick Cronin is doing a pretty good job there. He had a team full of freshmen last year and kind of struggled. But that means that they're sophomores this year, and they're playing really well. And, they've made a lot of strides. I'm gonna take UCLA in Lincoln here and take the road team. It's not often I'm going to pick the road teams, but I think I'm going to take UCLA in this game. All right, John, SEC play. Another one that we're going to talk about here. This is the only 3-loss team in the SEC, South Carolina. Every single 15 of the 16 teams in the SEC are 11-2 or better.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all hear me? 11-2 or better. 15 of the 16 teams. South Carolina is the only one. They're 10-3. They still have won 10 before the new year. But they are taking on Mississippi State at Mississippi State in Starkville. John, do you give South Carolina, the Gamecocks, a chance here in this game?
South Carolina is better at home, I think, than they are away. We've noticed that trend the last couple of years. I'll say this. South Carolina's got a really good team. Mississippi State does too. Caudell Harris Jr. is really, really good. They got Cam Matthews. They got Riley Kugel, the transfer from Florida. He's really good for Mississippi State. RJ Melendez is really, really good. Mississippi State's shooting 46% from the floor. They're 6-0 at home. Now they did just beat it, Prairie View A&M by single digits earlier. Now Mississippi State has a notorious thing for letting teams hang around. Like last couple of times they've had these easy games and they've kind of struggled. But when they want to turn it on, they can turn it on at any time. You see that with Josh Hubbard. When he gets going, he's hard to stop on the defensive end and the offensive end. I think just going on the road against a team like Mississippi State is just going to be too much for South Carolina this weekend. I think Josh Hubbard takes the game, and I think he wins this game for him. I think he gets off to a really hot start. Lately he's just not been shooting the ball as well. He had a tough game the other night, but I think he gets back to his normal ways, and I think they win this game.
I got a question for you. Is Chris Jans always pissed off?
Looks like it all the time, doesn't he?
Hey, honestly.
Brad, he's a dentist, don't you know? He's a dentist. According to John Rothstein, he's a dentist.
He must have some pain in his teeth or something then. I don't know, man. I'm going to tell you right now.
He's always engaged.
Always. he always looks pissed off. I mean, honestly, always.
Mm-hmm.
I think. South Carolina, I think Ferris has done a great job. I think he's done an excellent job, to be honest with you. I think that's a tough basketball school in a tough conference to keep up, to be honest with you.
I'll say this, though. They got a really good stud.
Especially with the girls, especially with the women's team being as good as they are now. I mean, it's just, I think it makes it even more tough to keep up with them.
I will say that Collins Murphy-Boyles might be one of the best players in the SEC for South Carolina. He's really good. But he's going to have to have a lot of help tomorrow if they're going to win this game.
Mississippi State's a tough place to play. Defense is going to be nasty. They're going to hold you to 55 to 65 points no matter what. Just it seems like, especially at home. They really turn it up at home, and I'm going to take Hail State here in Starkville. I think they'll win this game and move on. Now, John, the famous tradition game here in the ACC, Duke at SMU, is the next one. It's one of those weird matchups. It's
if you've never heard
matchup.
If you've never heard of Boopy Miller, you're going to learn real quick who Boopy Miller is. He can play.
I'm going to be honest with you, John. I don't know who Boopy Miller is.
He plays for SMU. He's their top scorer. He played with Wake Forest last year. He's averaging 15 points per game. They got a really good front court player, Matt Cross. He's a transfer.
I think they're 11-2, right?
Yeah.
Isn't this SMU team 11-2?
Yeah, they're really, really good, and they're 43rd and they're 43rd in the KenPom. So this is a tough game for Duke, albeit aside. They've been flying under the radar in the ACC. They beat Washington State. They beat LSU. They beat Boston College. Duke, to me, Brad, still need to prove.
A football school. At least that's what I always thought. I don't know.
To me, I still think Duke needs more consistency when it comes to beating like good teams on the road. I'm not saying SMU is going to pull the upset here, but they are very well coached. They're a veteran team, and I think they're a team that is close enough to keep this game a cover and cover this game. But I will take Duke just because they got Cooper Flagg. Foster's playing really, really well right now. Trying to think the other guy's name that plays for Duke. It's really, really good. Knipple's good. Tyrese Proctor's really, really, really good. They're second in KenPom. I think they're 10th in offensive efficiency. So Duke's going to have a time in this game, but I think when it boils down to it, I think they take care of things in this matchup. Jerry said you all play SMU football too about playoffs, so now basketball is. Jerry.
Listen, I know a little bit about SMU football. I'm going to be honest with you, Jerry. I don't know much about SMU basketball. I'm just going to be honest.
You see who he comes to? You see who he comes to, Jerry, for his basketball knowledge? He comes to the main.
I don't keep up. I'm busy, and I don't keep up with – I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't recall SMU ever really being good in basketball.
Nah, they had a couple.
Maybe John will correct me on that. But
there's
has
a couple
SMU
years
ever made the NCAA tournament?
Yes, there was a couple years ago where they had a good team with Larry Brown, former Kansas coach.
Yeah, he
coached
was
the
there
NBA.
1 or 2 years.
They had a couple of
Yeah,
years there where they
something
was
like
really
that.
good. But other than that, I mean, they haven't really been that great. But they had some good years there. I think they was seated pretty high that 1 year with Larry Brown.
Okay, this team's 11-2. They're in the ACC now. I get it. I mean, you've got to turn on. You've got to be more than just football. They have they also have a pretty good women's volleyball team, by the way. I figured that out throughout the season following Kentucky volleyball as well.
You've turned into a volleyball guy. You've turned into a volleyball guy.
So I actually know more about SMU women's volleyball than I do SMU's basketball team. I'm just going to be honest. But, apparently SMU is turning on and doing a lot more since joining the ACC. And they're 11-2, I think. They have had a good year. However, I'm going with the blue blood here. I've got to go Duke in this game.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm a Kentucky fan. And I know Kentucky fans are going to get all over me probably, but I'm going with the blue blood here. All right, I'm going to try to get back on track because I do know a little bit about Missouri and Auburn.
Well, to be fair, Brad, you cover a lot of the SEC in Kentucky. Like it's not like you're out there in the ACC country going around and looking at every roster and going through all that stuff. I mean, it's tough to keep up with a lot of games. Now, I want to bring this up because this is kind of something that I wanted to bring up because it matches this perfect. T3 bracketology. If people don't know who he is, he's on X. He's a really good bracketologist. He watches almost every team.
Not almost. He does watch every team.
Well, he says that sometimes he gets kind of sidetracked at times and he can't watch all of them, but he tries to get all of them in, and he puts all of them down on eye test, and he goes through and watches every single game. And to me, that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it is. I agree. He's one of the better ones.
He is.
So Missouri at Auburn. Everybody knows Auburn's number 2 in the country. Missouri has had a pretty solid year. I mean, Dennis Gates has them back. I mean, playing some ball. They knocked off Kansas a couple of weeks ago, week and a half ago. And beat them pretty good as well. So, this is at Auburn, always a tough place to play. Do you give the Tigers a chance here against the Tigers?
No. I'm going to say this, Brad. Auburn's on a mission. We saw that in the Maui. They got a 5-game winning streak. Janai Broome might be a player of the year candidate. He's really, really good. Auburn forces a lot of turnovers, man. Missouri's going to have a tough time in this game.
Yes, Jerry. They're in Dallas.
Missouri's only played, I think, 1 away game this year, and I think they lost. I think I'm going to trust Auburn at home in the jungle. Missouri's not going to be able to stop Auburn from hitting shots, grabbing boards. They're going to have issues scoring, too, against this Auburn defense. I want to tell you something, Brad. I watched the game the other night. Auburn was throwing alley-oops from
Tigers win. That's a good one, Jerry.
They was throwing alley-oops from midcourt, behind their head. Like, this Auburn team is absolutely athletic. They're just – this might be the best Bruce Pearl team that he's had at Auburn, and that's not exaggerating.
Maybe the best Bruce Pearl team ever, and I'm including the Tennessee years.
This team's legit.
It is 100%.
But I'm with you. I'm Auburn. I think Auburn takes care of this game and they win this game.
I'm with you on this one, man. I've told you from about the first full weekend. I told you this Auburn team is for real. I mean,
but I will say this, Brad. Auburn has a tendency, if you've noticed the last 3 or 4 years in the Bruce Pearl era, they have that one game in the SEC where a team comes into the jungle and they just shoot the ball really, really well.
Yeah, but it's not going to be. It's not going to be opening night.
No, I'm not saying
that's
that.
That's usually around the 1st of February.
Yeah.
That's usually around, about 1st of February in the mids part of the SEC conference somewhere. It's not going to be the first game right off the bat. Missouri is in for a buzzsaw tomorrow, I think.
I will say this. Missouri is much improved. Missouri is much improved.
They are.
They're very much improved. Tons. But
tons. I thought they were going to be a ton worse than what they are. They have come out. Gates is doing an absolute, just marvelous job, if you ask me.
They only lost by what was it? 3 points. The Illinois team that might be in contention for top 15 in the country after they whipped Oregon last night. They put Oregon on a platter last night in Eugene.
Yeah, they put them to sleep
real quick. Yeah, they was.
Right,
Jerry.
I'm going.
Auburn was in the Final Four a few years ago. I'm not going to get into that, Jerry, because I feel like Auburn had that Final Four taken away from them on a questionable call. But that's water under the bridge. So,
all right. So this is a new SEC rival here, but every time I see this, it makes me think of football. But we're not talking about football here. We're talking about 2 top 12 teams in basketball in the SEC. It's just strange. What in the wide world of sports is going on here? Oklahoma at Alabama, and it's top 12 teams, and we're not talking football. We're talking basketball.
Yep. And I will say this, Brad, the guard play in this game, oh boy. You got Jeremiah Fears, maybe the best player in the country as a freshman, going up against Mark Sears in Alabama.
Sears.
Yeah. Sears and
Fears. And Sears.
Yeah. Alabama's at home, like you said, Brad. I think they're more battle tested than Oklahoma, and I think they'll defend their home floor in this one and win this game. Oklahoma, a lot of their success was because where they got hot in the battle for Atlantis early in the year. They beat Arizona. We
talked about undefeated teams. Oklahoma is still one of those, right?
Yeah. Yep. But,
that's what I thought.
But they're playing on the road here in Alabama. It's going to be a much difficult environment, I think. Jeremiah Fears is a very high-volume scorer. But going on the road to play Alabama in your first ever SEC game is a very tall order, I think, for any freshman.
Sears and Fears. Sounds like
Bama.
Sounds like an 80s band.
It does. I think Bama has the advantage inside with Grant Nelson too, and I think there'll be too much to handle here. Give me Alabama at home. I think Oklahoma drops this one.
They're going to play some 80s pop rock, Sears and Fears.
Get back on topic there. Oh, me.
I can't help it. Sometimes I have a little fun here.
He has to go off. He has to go off kilter for a little bit. I have to reel him in.
All right. Bama, Sears is a fantastic guard. Mark Sears, just fantastic. You got Grant Nelson that is back for what seems like his 12th year at Bama. I mean, this Bama team, talking about coaching, I mean, Nate Oates has done a fantastic job at Alabama. Took them to the Final Four last year. First time for Bama, to go to the Final Four, and brought a ton back with this team. Oklahoma has surprised me. I didn't think Oklahoma would be this good, to be honest with you. Like I said, they're undefeated. The Fierce kid is showing out, and he has all year long, and undefeated and headed to Bama.
Tough task.
I think it's going to be a tough one for them to overtake Alabama at home here in their SEC opener. But don't count out this Oklahoma team to upsetting a few teams and getting some big wins along the way in the SEC this year. But right now, I'm going to take Bama in the home opener. All right, big rival here, SEC. This is Texas versus Texas A&M. This is at Lubbock. What do you think? What do you think of this one, John?
You mean Texas? It's at Texas. You said Lubbock.
Oh, well, yeah.
You meant Texas Tech.
That's Tech. That's Tech. Yeah. My bad.
No, you're good. I like this Texas team. I also love this Texas A&M team. They really, really get after you on the floor defensively. Now, their shooting has not been great, but when they lock in defensively, Texas A&M can literally cause havoc.
I love Buzz Williams. The way he coaches defense,
the way he runs
Wade
things,
Taylor's
defense. Yeah, it's impressive to watch. I think the Reed Center is going to be rocking tomorrow. The first home game, first Texas A&M game in quite a while in basketball. I think this is an opportunity for them to show out on the stage, and I think they get it done. I think they win this game. I think they win this game by double digits, actually. They're tough to beat at home.
They are. A&M's got a great team. I love what Buzz Williams does there. And Texas, I think they're kind of a young team. I think they're going to take a few bumps along the way. I think I'm going to go with Aggies here at home in the home opener. It is a rivalry game, and it's good to see Texas and Texas A&M playing each other.
It is.
This one, John, I threw this one in. This is a Big 12 game here. Kansas has kind of struggled lately.
Yeah, they have. They've not had the –
And this is at UCF, and UCF is like 11-2 or something like that. They've only lost 2 games, I think. And – or 10-2, somewhere around there. So what do you think about the Jayhawks on the road here?
It's just hard to tell.
9-3, and they've kind of struggled lately. Do they bounce back?
It's just really hard to tell what you're going to get with Kansas State. You just don't know.
Kansas, not Kansas State.
You said you had me confused. I was like, what? Kansas, you mean?
Yeah, we're talking about Kansas here.
Oh, I thought you meant it said Kansas State. I didn't know. I thought I got confused there for a minute. Kansas, they started out with a very bad loss. Losing to West Virginia. Their effort was just not great for the first 30 minutes. They finally picked it together, and they finally got it together.
Smoked by the Missouri team, too, that we were talking about a little bit ago.
Here's another aspect of this, Brad. Kansas has to go back to a place last year where they just didn't play well. and they lost.
Yep.
UCF has got a really good team. Keyshawn Hall is really, really good. Jordan Ivy Curry. I think he's the transfer from UTSA. Kentucky was looking after him for a little bit in the transfer portal. He's a really good player for them. They got Darius Johnson. This is a good UCF team. What does KU have mentally? I think we found out in this game. You're going to have duds in conference play. You're going to have games where you don't really play that well like they had the other night against West Virginia. But what happens if the Jayhawks come in here and they show no effort whatsoever in a road environment and they go up 0-2 in Big 12 play? To me, that's concerning. Now,
they were 7th in the country. How far are they going to fall?
I will say Bill Self is great when it comes to these kind of games and motivating his guys. This is a talented, experienced group that he's got. I just think UCF poses a bigger threat than I think people take credit for. But I think Kansas finds a way to end the road doldrums. But I think this game's going to be close. I don't think Kansas is a great team, but I think they're a good team. Now, I think they're going to win?
Let's be honest, though, John. This team should actually be better than they were last year.
Yeah, I mean, you bring back Hunter Dickinson. You get DeJuan Harris.
But you added a bunch of good transfers.
Yeah, and you got Zeke Mayo. I don't know, man. Kansas is hard. See, here's the thing about Kansas.
You brought in AJ Stores and Zeke Mayo, and I mean, this team should be much improved from last year, and so far, they kind of look like the same team as last year.
They do, and here's the thing about Kansas. Like, with Kansas, you're going to have these games where they lose on the road. They had a couple of times last year before last, and then they pick it up towards the end of the year, and they get it together in tournament, and they start playing ball. Kansas is notorious for a lot of this, especially on the road. They don't necessarily play well on the road. But to be fair, it's tough to win it the Fog. But don't tell West Virginia that, because they went in there and took care of business. That's a tough environment.
Smackdown.
I mean, but I think Kansas wins this game. But it's going to be awful close.
Well, UCF beat them last year, right?
They did. Same place.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to take Kansas. But
I know
where
I don't
feel comfortable.
I know really where you're on the fence at. Kansas's road woes is what gets me. They don't play good on the road. They play
last year, and they look. They play stale sometimes. They just don't look like they are engaged and want to be out there. And they did that last year.
When they play at home, they look like the Showtime Lakers. Like it's completely. And if people don't know who the Showtime Lakers is, that's an old reference. Brad remember those guys. Brad knows who the Showtime Lakers are.
That's my favorite.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go Kansas here, but man, I think UCF can win this game at home. I really do.
I'm not trying to tell you age, by the way, Brad. I was just saying, the Showtime Lakers. Brad knows all about the Showtime Lakers.
It's my favorite, actually. Yeah. Close to my heart, to be honest.
Yeah, very close.
You don't want to get me talking about the NBA. The NBA right now looks like it's going down the drain, and my Showtime Lakers were the ones that helped save the NBA. And right now, the viewership and stuff, it looks like it's going down the drain. And you know why? It's because every team plays the exact same way.
Yep.
There's no there's no variety, there's no roughhouse one team, and every team plays the exact same way.
See what I did, Jerry? I got him up on a rant, man.
But it's starting to piss me off.
I got him on one.
It really is.
Let's move on, Brad.
I'm going to move on. Maryland at Oregon.
Oh, goodness.
Oregon had been having a great season, but been looking, won the Vegas tournament, the Players Era tournament out there, been having a great season until the last game, and they got smoked by Illinois.
Maryland lost too. So both of these teams are coming off losses as of now. So somebody's got to win this game. And I trust Oregon in this game more than I do Maryland at this point, especially on the road. Maryland struggles a lot of times on the road. Now, they play really well at home. Maryland's got a great player in Derek Queen. If you haven't watched him play, he's one of the top players in the country, freshman. He can get after it. But it's going to take more than just him to win on the road. But give me Oregon. I think they bounce back from the loss to, well, not just a loss, absolute can kicking.
They got
by the hands of Illinois, which I will say later in the week as we talk about these teams and rankings, Illinois to me might be in the tier of Sweet 16, Elite 8 quality teams. They're playing really, really well right now. But
they are.
I think Oregon wins this game. I think they bounce back here.
All right. They got to show up better at Eugene this time around. I'm going to pick this Oregon team here at home. But Phil Knight's got to get Oregon back on track. Football, basketball, just getting their asses kicked. I don't know what's going on now at Eugene, but they got to get back on track here. So I'm going to pick Oregon here in this game. All right. Speaking of Illinois, we have Illinois at Washington. Washington has got a new coach. They're 10-4. I think they're having a little bit better season than, through non-conference than I think a lot of people would have thought. But, of course, Big Ten has started. This isn't the first game for the Big Ten. They started about a week ago or so.
And Washington has Greg Osborne, the former Utah State.
They do.
Yep.
Yeah, they do.
He's playing really well this year. Brad Underwood has Illinois playing at a really high level. And by the way, the coach that you're referring to is Danny Sprinkle. He was the coach at Utah State.
Yep.
A year ago. So, to me, this is going to be a tough game for Illinois. This is on the road.
NBA
I believe
needs some bad boys. They need some bruisers. They need some Patrick Ewing Knicks. They need some Kevin McHale's. They need some variety in the league, damn it. You can't all shoot 100 damn three-pointers a game. Nobody cares. Just saying.
So on the topic with Illinois, you got Trey White playing really, really well. And you got those two guys that I mentioned the other night. I can't really pronounce their name. I can't. Kasparis.
I'm not even try.
I call him Kasparis. I don't want to butcher his name, but he's really, really good.
Uvicius is there as well, and he's been playing pretty good as well.
His brother plays at Arkansas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Big Z. Kylan Boswell is really, really good for them. This is a good Illinois team. And I think, before this season's over in tournament play, I think Illinois is going to be in that mix for Sweet 16, Elite 8. I wouldn't put it past them to possibly win the Big Ten.
Yeah, I like this Illinois team. I told you earlier in the year I like this Illinois team. I've watched them a couple of 2 or 3 times this year already. And I haven't been watching a ton of games because I've been covering this stuff and on the road and stuff. So I really haven't watched a ton, but I have watched Illinois 2.5 games or so. I really like this Illinois team. I like what Brad Underwood is doing with his team. Danny Sprinkle in his first year at Washington, though, you're talking about Great Osobor. I mean, he's doing a fantastic job in his first season out there. Like I said, the Big Ten has already started. This isn't the kickoff for weekend for the Big Ten like it is for the SEC. So Washington's already played a couple of Big Ten games. They're 10-4. You got to give a little bit of credit to what's going on out there in Washington that Danny Sprinkle's doing.
And, and a lot of people don't realize where Danny Sprinkle actually comes from. He coached at Montana State.
Yeah.
His alma mater.
Yeah,
he rose up. He rose up the ranks in coaching, and he was assistant coach at Cal State Northridge. He stayed there 6 years. He was an assistant at Montana State, in which he ended up getting the head coaching job. And then he got into the Mountain West at the Utah State. And now he's at Washington, and he's got them at 10-4. So they're playing really, really well right now. But I think they're going to have a tough time with Illinois this weekend. Illinois is
really, it is kind of a tough place to play. I don't think a lot of people realize that, but they have kind of an odd arena. It is kind of a tough place to go into. So Illinois will have that to deal with here in this game. But I think the Illini pulls this one out in the end, and I'm going to pick them to win. All right, John. I have 4 women's basketball games. The first one here is tomorrow, and then the other 3 are Sunday. Sunday's a big game day for women's college basketball. But tomorrow, UCLA, who is the number 1 team in the country right now on the women's side, is playing at Indiana. This is in Bloomington. Indiana is a pretty decent Big Ten team. They're 10-3 on the year, and UCLA's getting their big girl back. They're getting Lauren Betts back.
Lauren Betts is back. Kiki Wright.
She has been out for a little while, and she is back in this game. So I just wanted to. I didn't know if you would know if she's coming back or not, but she is.
No. Kiki Rice might be one of the most dynamic point guards in the country. She's very dynamic with the ball in her hands. They got the Gardner girl from Oregon State. They got Janai Barker from Texas A&M. She's really, really good. This is a really, really good UCLA team. She won Pac-12 Sixth Player of the Year, Sixth Player of the Year last year, Gardner, in which Oregon State reached the Elite 8 last year. If folks that don't follow women's college basketball.
And then lost everybody.
Yeah, and lost every single person.
So like their top 6 or something.
Yeah. I think I'm going to take UCLA in this game. Now, Indiana has been hitting their stride as of recently. This is a good opportunity, for them to get
make a statement.
number one team in here. Indiana's built itself into a really good Big Ten team. They won their conference championship. They got a 1 seed in the tournament. They beat Caitlin Clark.
They did.
So Indiana is doing really good things here. But those seasons had one of the best guards in the country in Mackenzie Holmes. Now she's on the bench as a graduate assistant. She's now coaching. And I think that has, there's going to be learning curves as you go. And I think Indiana is going to learn how to play the right way and figure things out. But this weekend it's going to be tough against a team like UCLA. UCLA is probably, to me, the best team in the country. And I wouldn't be shocked if this UCLA team ended up in the Final Four when it's all said and done.
Oh, I wouldn't be shocked if this UCLA team ends up in the Final Four. But, you got USC
I will say
out
Indiana.
there. Big
I will say
too,
Indiana.
So,
I will say Indiana has a really good player in Caroline Stripling. She's a transfer from Tennessee. She's a really good basketball player. And when they got Sydney Penn, they got Parrish. Parrish is, I think she's back. I think she had some knee issues early in the year. I think she's back. Losing Mackenzie Holmes is tough. And Sarah Scalia.
Yep.
Scalia was really, really good too. But as they grow and get better, this Indiana team will be in the hunt for the Big Ten.
Yeah, this UCLA team is legit. That's why they're the number one team in the country right now. And I think it's going to be tough for Indiana, even at home, to hold court here. I'm gonna take the Bruins here in this game as well. With Betts coming back, that's just going to give them even more. She's one of the better players in the country, and when you get her coming back, I think that's going to fire them up and go on the road here and get a big win.
Yep.
All right, John, I threw this one in. I plan on being there Sunday to cover this game in Nashville. So
weather permitting.
Weather permitting. I said I'd plan on it.
Yeah.
But I do plan on being there in Nashville for this game. Kentucky is coming off of a big win last night, John. They really, really, really good last night. It was fun to be there last night against Mississippi State. They broke the three-point record, made 18 three-pointers last night. But they're playing at Vandy. Vandy's 14-1. They have a freshman that put up 36 points last night in her first SEC game.
Michaela Blakes. She's
first
good
SEC game she put up. Now they played Georgia, which is probably one of the weaker teams in the SEC. But freshman put up 36 points last night in her first SEC game.
Yeah, she's a really good guard. She's McDonald's All-American. She scored 36. I think the previous record was, way back in the 80s, maybe. I can't remember. Shay Ralph is a really good coach for Vanderbilt. They're 14-1. They've won 14 of their 15 games. I think, Camille Pierre is really, really good. Yanan Moore is really, really good. Madison Green's a good player. Now,
thank you, Jerry.
They're going up against.
I'm planning on it, weather permitting.
They're going up against a really good Kentucky team with Georgia Moore, Clara Strack, Hassett. This is a really good Kentucky team, and when they're shooting the ball,
and if Deja Lawrence can shoot like she did last night, this is going to be a dangerous Kentucky team.
I'm going to go on record here. And I know people are probably going to say, well, what do you mean by that? Why do you say that? But me and Brad had this conversation. I wouldn't be shocked if the Kentucky women, have a better year than the actual men's team does.
I've told you I wouldn't either.
But that's just on record.
I'm not saying wins-wise because the men play a few more games than the women do. The men have 31 games in the regular season. The women only have 28. So that makes a little bit of a difference. in the regular season. So, I'm not saying, but as far as
SEC
where
play.
this team can go in the SEC and NCAA tournament, it would not shock me that this Kentucky women's team maybe goes a little bit further than the men's.
Yep. But like you said, Brett, I think I'm going to take Kentucky here. Now, I wouldn't be shocked if Vanderbilt wins this game either. It's going to be a tough place to play. Vanderbilt's really, really good. Like you said, Michaela Blake is really coming on as a freshman. They got some other key contributors around them. This isn't just this season to be done. Last year they was really, really improved. They brought some girls back, and they're having quite the year. So this Vanderbilt team is going to be in the middle of the SEC when it comes to seeding and getting to the NCAA tournament. They're going to be right there at the end. And like you said, it's going to be a tough game.
It is. I'm excited about going, but I'm also a little nervous about this game. I mean, Kentucky's ranked 16th in the country. Vanderbilt, despite being 14-1, is unranked. They are not ranked. Kentucky played Mississippi State, who was 13-1 before last night, and they were also unranked. So Kentucky is starting out with a 13-1 team and now a 14-1 team, and they're both unranked in the SEC. This one's on the road. Memorial is a tough place to play. Everybody knows that. It's an odd place to play. The benches are odd. I mean, it's an odd gym. I mean, it's just an odd place to play. It's always been that way. It's a tough place. I think it's always given Vanderbilt men's and women's an advantage, a home court advantage, a true home court advantage. I do think I'm going to trust Georgia Amore. She is just very dynamic, so fun to watch. She's been through the rigors of the ACC. She's won the ACC tournament. She's won a regular season ACC. She's taken the Hokies to the Final Four. I mean, she's been through the battles. I'm gonna trust Georgia Amore to get this win Sunday. So I'm gonna take the Wildcats here, but I think this is going to be a lot tougher game than most would expect. Most Kentucky fans would expect. All right, John, we're going to move on. I got two more real quick. Got Notre Dame at North Carolina. I love this Notre Dame team.
I do too,
John. But I'm going to tell you, though, North Carolina's no joke. Kentucky went there and did not look good at North Carolina.
They did not. They didn't shoot well. They looked out of sync. They just could not get it together. I love this Notre Dame team, like you said. They got a really good point guard in Olivia Miles. We got Hannah Hidalgo.
Man, you talk about a backcourt. They got one of the best backcourts in the country.
Kate Caval. I think she's a really, really good freshman.
Olivia Miles and Hannah Hidalgo might be the best backcourt in the country. And I watched Georgia Amore and Deja Lawrence, and they were fantastic last night. But I'm going to tell you right now, Olivia Miles and Hannah Hidalgo, I don't know, y'all. They're pretty damn dynamic.
They are. This is a really good North Carolina team as well. Their defense is really, really good. They get after you on the defensive end. I think the girls have a girl named Dak King. I think she's a center. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. She's really good.
She dominated the game.
She did.
With, She was physical. Yeah.
She's a really good player. But I think I'm going to go with Notre Dame here. I think their backcourt is just too solid for them to lose this game. Notre Dame, I'm going to go on a limb and say this. They're probably that
talking about Final Four.
They're probably that other team that's going to be there. And I wouldn't be shocked if they ended up winning the whole thing. They're that good.
I think they're that good. Hannah Hidalgo right now is my player of the year.
Yeah.
And Olivia Miles has 3, or I'm pretty sure it's still going. She has 3 straight triple doubles, y'all. 3 straight triple doubles.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Like the stuff that's going on in the women's game right now, you don't even hear. Like, you would not believe one night there was like 5 triple doubles.
Yeah.
In the men's game, you might go all year long and there won't be 5 triple doubles all year.
Yeah, the Notre Dame girls are really, really good.
Olivia Miles had 3 straight triple doubles. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah. Quite a feat.
So I'm taking Notre Dame here, despite North Carolina being a really good team and this being at home. I'm going to trust Olivia Miles and Hannah Hidalgo here. This Notre Dame team looks legit.
They're good.
Like maybe championship legit.
Yeah. As a Kentucky fan,
John,
I will say, as a Kentucky fan, running into them in the tournament would not be quite good.
No, that's one team I would like to stay away from.
I would like to avoid in that bracket, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd like to stay away from Notre Dame if we can, just to be honest. All right, John. Oklahoma started out last night, tough game against Texas, and held their own at Oklahoma. Lost 80-73 at the end.
Brad,
so they're looking for a bounce back here. Oklahoma's number 9 in the country. Tennessee's like 15. They're still the only undefeated team in women's basketball.
I'm going to say 3 things. I'm going to say 3 things here. Pace.
Yeah.
Both these teams like to get out and move.
Yeah.
Tennessee likes to run pace. Kim Caldwell likes to get out and run in transition. They lead the scoring, I think, with 98 points per game. Reagan Beers is a really, really good basketball player. She has a tendency to get in foul trouble, though. That's the biggest thing with Reagan. She gets in against their bigger matchups. I think in the loss to Duke in Texas, she had 4 against Louisville. Tennessee needs a good defensive game plan for her, though. It can't simply just get killed on the boards by her. Let her dominate the paint.
Oklahoma can't afford to drop 2 straight out of the SEC. Number 9. I mean, honestly, and at Tennessee is going to be a tough one.
The question I have with Tennessee, this is
Lady
SEC
Vols
play.
are going to be no joke.
The only thing I have really a question with the Vols, Lady Vols, with now and SEC play is their defense. Their defense hasn't been great. But I think Tennessee's going to be motivated to have a better showing at home than they had the last time out. I think this is going to be a full court press back and forth thing with the Sooners. But you simply said you can't let Reagan Beers get in the paint. You can't let her get on the board. You can't try to get her in foul trouble. If you get her in foul trouble, I think you got a chance. But I still think you have a chance even when she's on the floor. But you're going to have to shoot really, really well to win this game. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Everybody says, well, everybody hates Tennessee and Kentucky. Well, that might be the case. But Kim Caldwell is one of the best coaches in the game right now. She's recruiting at a level that I've never seen at Tennessee. Probably
it was a really good hire. I will say that.
Pat Summitt. I'll be honest with you. This is probably the best they've recruited since Pat Summitt.
It is so far. I mean, she's only been there 6 months, but the job that Kim Caldwell is doing to start out with is really, really, really good. Now, I'm following Kentucky, and Kenny Brooks is doing fantastic, and but Kim Caldwell's hanging right there with him as far as newcomer and coach and stuff in the women's game. So,
well, I think too,
I can't take nothing away from her.
I will say too, the win against Texas A&M, they
didn't play good last night in the second half.
They didn't, but they
did get the win. But they
started out
good.
great. They was hitting, but then it just kind of. I read a little article today that Kim Caldwell says she wasn't happy about shot selection at times, and she said that was probably a point of emphasis. Now I'll say this, like I said earlier, the Lady Vols
A&M's not one of the better teams in the women's game.
They're not
now. In the SEC.
She mentioned something the other night. She said practice was going to be a doozy. Don't really know what that means, but she'll get after them for sure. But they're going to have to make some adjustments now because they got a number 10 team coming in. I mean, I'm going to tell you, SEC women's play might be as good as the men's, but I'm not saying as regard as top heavy. But from middle to end, you got
because the top 10 or so is going to be just as strong.
Yeah, but South Carolina's going to be there. Texas is going to be there. LSU is going to be there.
Yeah.
Flau'jae Johnson.
These two teams here are going to be there.
Pow, South Carolina. We haven't even got to see them really play yet. Because we've been watching other games, but you're going to get to see it pretty up close. You've seen it last year in the SEC tournament, so it's going to be a fun year, Brad. And especially
I'm going to take Oklahoma here, John, I think I'm going to take Oklahoma to have this bounce back because if they're going to stay in the top 10 or 12, they can't afford to lose 2 games.
I think I'm going to go there.
Tennessee.
I think Tennessee probably could afford to lose this game. Well, I wouldn't say they could afford it, but they could probably deal with it a little bit more than Oklahoma would losing back-to-back like that. I think Reagan Beers has a big game, and I think I think she leads them to victory.
All right. I think that's where I'm going to go to with this one.
I was going to tell you, we missed the men's game. It was kind of an underrated game I kind of wanted to not really talk about, just kind of say to look out for is LSU and Vanderbilt, the men's side. Mark Byington is doing a really good job at Vanderbilt. Cam Carter for LSU is really, really good. Jason Edwards for Vanderbilt. If it wasn't for Edwards in a couple of games, Vanderbilt probably loses more than what they should. He's been a really dynamic player. People don't realize he was a coach at James Madison last year, had one of their greatest years that they've had in quite a while. Upset Wisconsin in the first round last year, eventually lost to the Duke Blue Devils. Get it? James Madison Dukes, no pun intended. But great job he's done at Vanderbilt. And they also got a really good guard in A.J. Haggard. I think that's how you spell his name. He was the guard from Michigan State that played for Tom Izzo for quite a while. So that should be a fun game. There's quite a bit. We done did, Jerry. But there's quite a bit of games tomorrow. So be on the lookout for some of these games.
Yeah, that was the second game we talked about.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of games here tomorrow on the docket. So it's cold out. They're giving a lot of snow and ice and whatever the case may be. So get your blankets up, turn on the TV, and go to work and watch some basketball.
I'm hoping it holds off until Sunday night because the Kentucky Vandy game is at 2:00 in the afternoon. I'm only a little over an hour and something away from Nashville, so
tell me,
I'm
Brad,
hoping to go to the game.
You don't want to get stranded in Nashville.
I'm hoping to go to the game on Sunday and get back before it gets real bad, but we'll see.
Quick question. I got a question
All right,
for
guys.
you. I got a quick question for you before we exit. How was the grocery store today?
Terrible. Terrible. I don't want to go back.
Charles Barkley,
terrible.
Terrible.
It's terrible, guys. That's terrible. All right. So we will see you guys Monday night. We are going to do a Big Blue Hoops cast. I've been saying that for a couple of weeks. I've been going to some games, and it's been Christmas and New Year's, and it's been crazy. So we're going to get back in the swing on Monday night. Going to do a Big Blue Hoops cast for you guys.
I just got to say thank you from me and Brad for all the follows on our Facebook page. I've been going through and liking pretty much the ones I can look at. I've went in and invited a bunch more today, Brad. We're growing more than I thought we was. I looked at it today. The last 7 days, we've had over 7 million views. That's really good. And, you're not just helping out the podcast. You're helping us out. We love bringing you all information. We love bringing you all updates on Kentucky women's basketball and men's. I love it. I have a passion for it, and I just love to see other fans, communicate.
The last thing I'll say is this. Go check out stadiumrant.com. It's not just me and John. There is a whole team there of writers, 40, 50 writers that are writing on anything and everything. I mean, they're covering tennis and soccer and wrestling and, anything and everything.
Shout out JC Kirk.
Team stuff.
Shout out JC Kirk and Tyler
Lamb, JC Kirk, Stephen Post. I'm not sure how he pronounces it. It's P-O-S-S.
Danny Fisher. I always joke. I always say Danny Fisher is my favorite because he has a love for SEC basketball like I do. I always pick at him because he loves it as much as
check him out, guys, because there is all kinds of stuff. It's basically they got a brand new website. It looks great. We are growing. I'm going to say we because we are part of it. We're growing like crazy. And I'd love for all you guys to go check out. Instead of going to ESPN or something like that, go to Stadium Rant and support guys just like us.
Don't worry, Brad. You'll be on
You'll
be on ESPN in no time, brother. Like the other side of the pillow. There's Scott on the other side of the pillow.
As cool as the other side of the pillow. All right, man. I'll see you guys Monday night. Y'all have a good weekend.
Have a good one. Be safe.